Benvenute e benvenuti al webinar Helbling Languages dal titolo Who's Afraid of Reading Tasks? Using Practice Materials to Teach Exam Technique. Il webinar rientra nella programmazione a supporto della didattica a distanza promossa dalle case editrici Loescher e Danna, tenendo conto delle esigenze didattiche emerse a seguito dell'emergenza sanitaria che obbliga alla chiusura delle scuole. Interverrà Kate Gralton, autrice. Kate insegna inglese nell'area di Bologna da oltre 20 anni e tiene corsi di Business English. Da alcuni anni collabora anche come consulente linguistica per l'Università di Bolzano e lavora come autrice, editor e redattrice freelance di testi scolastici di lingua inglese per vari ordini di scuola. Mi presento anche io sono Jacopo D'Andrea Ursoleo, mi occupo di Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages e di Language Testing. Anche io sono un autore di manuali di inglese per le scuole secondarie. Mi occuperò di monitorare la chat, segnalando le vostre eventuali domande a Kate, che vi risponderà alla fine del webinar. Quindi non mi rimane che augurarvi buon webinar e lasciare la parola a Kate. Kate, over to you now.
Oh, thank you, Jack. Hi, I'm Kate, and today we're talking about how to approach reading tasks with students so they have the tools to do them at home and then in exam situations such as the Invalsi and the B2 first exam reading paper. So for a lot of students, being faced with multiple reading texts in an exam situation can be really scary and daunting. And many teachers, including myself, tend to focus on listening and grammar activities in class, and we leave the reading texts for homework. This is probably partially because it doesn't feel very interesting to have students reading long texts in silence when you could be doing other things that are more difficult for them to do on their own at home. So that's fine, and it's probably a good use of their time. But before they do the exam practice readings at home, as homework, what they really need to know is how to approach each task type and get some guided practice from you in class. And this will give them the confidence and possibly the motivation to continue to do more of these tasks in their own time. So I've called this talk, Who's Afraid of Reading Tasks? And there's another one on Thursday, Who's Afraid of Listening Tasks? And we're going to go through and try to make them less scary, less huge, less boring, I suppose. So what we're trying to make use of the practice materials that you already possess and the books that your students already possess to teach them how to do these exam tasks. I must confess, I'm having a little bit of a problem with my glasses today. So it might take me a while to focus on my notes and then on the screen, etc. So please have patience with me. So our plan for today is to do reading tasks from the book Complete Invalsi 2.0, which is the new edition. And we're going to do the reading tasks from, I think, page 54 they start on, and it's test 3, which is one of the easy groups of tests. So we're not going to be doing very difficult questions today. We're going to be concentrating more on the techniques for finding answers to questions and how to approach each of the tasks. So then at the end, we'll have a Q&A session, which I'm hoping will be more an A session, because I'd really, really like to get some feedback from you on how you approach this in class too, because I imagine you do this all the time. So I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but I'm just trying to package it all into 1 hour so that maybe there's some things that can help you, maybe some things that you haven't thought of. But there's certainly things that I haven't thought of, and I would love to hear them from you. I'll just make the screen a little bit bigger for me so I can read it. Okay. So this is the book that we're using today. As I said, we're doing number 3, Easy Test. Now, I'm I will be showing you complete pages, but we can't get the complete pages on screen so that they're readable. So I'm going to be putting it into usable chunks. But this is the first of the Invalsi tasks. It's the multiple choice questions for B1. There's also multiple choice questions in B2. The main difference is the text is a little bit higher level in the B2 and there are more questions. In this one, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. Oh, actually, if I want to talk to you, I have to get my screen small again, don't I? So I can see your questions. Sorry, how do I do that? Can you help me, Max, to get back to the... Anyway, so I can't see the comments from teachers at the moment. Can somebody help me getting back to that? Oh, I can see one. Okay. I can see them one at a time, maybe. Okay, so the way to begin with looking at these tasks, I think the same for all of the tasks, is first to look at it as a whole. And what are the things that you can see immediately? What are probably the 3 things, before you read any questions or read any text of the smaller text, what are the 3 things that you can look for? Can I have some suggestions from you, please? Yes, the title, the picture, and one more thing. The rubric. So the rubric will tell you exactly how to do the task and what you're looking for. So I'm trying to read this here. So read an article about a study on children and the use of electronic devices. Then choose the correct answer, A, B, C, or D, for questions 1 to 7, and only one answer is correct. So then they can look at the title, and what do you think are some key words in that title to help them with the question? Hello, fast typers. Maybe screen time, children's, electronic device. Excellent. Okay. Now, on the next page. So what I've done here is I've got the text out for question 5 and question 7. There is a 6 in between here, and it actually is, the question is involved, I think, for the last half of that first paragraph. But these are the last 2 paragraphs of the reading itself. So what I'm suggesting is that you break the reading down into paragraphs and work on them question by question, rather than presenting the whole text. But there is one thing that you have to do before you start looking at questions. What is it? Looking for synonyms, yes. And the way you do that is by skimming or scanning. What I suggest you do first is skim, looking to get general understanding. The difference between skimming and scanning is looking for particular words to answer the questions, while skimming is just generally reading the text very quickly to get an idea of the meaning of the whole text. The gist. Thank you very much. Okay, so once you've got the title, read the rubric, had a look at any pictures that are there, done some skimming to understand the idea of the text, you move on to the questions. Now, in all the Invalsi questions and first certificate questions, what order are the questions in always? They're always in the order of the text. So you can focus on distinct paragraphs to find your questions. Now here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs, and we have 7 questions. plus the 0 question. I'm going to focus on the last 2 paragraphs and on 2 particular questions. Now, looking at the paragraph that begins with the American Academy of Pediatrics, there are a number of sentences in here, and we can break it down further just into sentences. So let's look at the questions that are involved here. So the American Academy of Pediatrics suggests A, absolutely no screen time for young children, B, avoiding screen time for small children as much as possible, C, less face-to-face time for young children, or D, waiting to see what happens with their future research. Now, what's the key word in the question part? What's the key word? Suggests. Good. So we are looking for words either suggest or what could be another optional word that means to suggest. Advice. Good. Hi, Michaela. Should. But at this easy level, we've actually got the same word repeated in the text. And as it happens, it's in the first line of this. So if we read the first sentence, the American Academy of Pediatrics suggests toddlers stay away from screens as much as possible. Now, is there a difficult vocab word in this sentence? Toddlers, yes. So students may not know what toddlers are, but they can probably understand it from the context. So this is probably something you could outline, you could ask them to underline the more difficult words in the paragraph and see if they can understand them from the context. So instead of just going through the questions in the lesson, you can also teach them other different techniques. So toddlers is a difficult word. Can you find any more that might be a bit more difficult to understand in that paragraph? I don't think there are any, are there? Because it's a very easy one. Okay. Stress, maybe, yes. I missed the second one. Okay. Avoid, good. I think avoid is a B one, so they should know that. Now, probably we're looking at A or B as the answer, but let's look at face-to-face. Can you find that in the text? Which line is it on? It's split between 2 lines. Good, it's between 4 and 5, thank you. Now, if we look at that sentence, the newest screen time guidelines from the American Academy of Pediatrics stress the importance of face-to-face communication and suggest parents avoid screen time for toddlers between the ages of 18 and 24 months, with the exception of video calling. Does this mean less face-to-face time for young children? No, it actually means the opposite. So we can remove C as an option at this stage. What is the difference between A and B in meaning? What are the words that make it different? Probably small children and young children. One is absolute, the other isn't. So A has absolutely no screen time for children, and B has avoiding screen time as much as possible. And so in the first sentence, we actually have there as much as possible. What about D? Waiting to see what happens with their future research. Can you see anything in the first half of that paragraph that pertains to that? there's nothing there. So that's like a red herring question. So can you type up which answer you think is correct? A, B, C, or D? Great. Okay, so it's B. Okay. Now, let's go to question 7. The study will be complete. Now, looking at the answers, we're looking at an answer that involves time. Can you tell me the words, because I'm sorry, I can't underline here, the words that indicate time in that second paragraph? Can you think of, see any groups? What's in the second line? I haven't got any answers. The group of words is until years down the line is a time phrase. Have we got another time phrase there? Line 3, for a few years. There's another one, on 2 to 3 year olds. Is that a time phrase, or is it just indicating the age of children? But it could be confusing because it's quite similar to option C. And then what's the next one that possibly refers to one of the questions? I can't see any answers at the moment. So I imagine that 10 people have typed up over the next decade. And then there's another one, which is over the time of the study. So the study will be complete. We have to eliminate the incorrect one. There's no reference to next year. There's no reference to 2 or 3 year olds stopping having screen time. So is it B or C, do you think? I can't see anything. Is there a phrase in the text that refers to in the next 10 years? Yes, it's over the next decade. And that is the correct question, the correct answer. So it's B, in the next 10 years. Okay. The next type is the short answer questions, which are at B1 level. Now, if we look at the rubric again, it says, read the text about the Oscars and then answer the questions 1 to 9 using, how many words can we use in the answer? I'm not seeing any comments at the moment. So it's using a maximum of 4 words. Do we need to reply in a full sentence to these? No, we don't. So it has to be 1, 2, 3, or 4 words. And a contraction is considered to be 2 words. So again, we would look at the rubric, any pictures, and then skim through the text. Okay. Thank you, Jacopo. Okay, so look at the question here, which is question number 5. Which award did the Hurt Locker win? Now we just have to go to the next page because the text is on the next page. Now, you would have, for which award did the Hurt Locker win, we would need to scan for the Hurt Locker, which is quite easy here because it's in italics because it's the name of the film. Can you tell me what the answer to the question would be? Best picture, thank you. Now it could be the best picture or best picture. They would both be acceptable. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Now, what if the question was, no, what if the answer was LA? What would the question be, do you think, if we're inventing a question? If the answer is LA, where, so it'd be a where question, where was it released? Or where wasn't it released, maybe? Okay. Now, if we go back, if we now look at question 7 here against this, what determines the actual winners of each category? Can anyone find the answer? It's a trick question, I'm afraid. Sometimes you get up to a point in a paragraph and you think, aha, the question has to be in here because it's in that order. But sometimes it will skip a paragraph and put the question into the next paragraph. So if you scan and you can't find the answer in there, it's probably time to move on to another section. So even if we look for keywords, you can see winners is in the question here, and there is the word winner on line 5, but it doesn't have anything to do with the question. The question is actually in the next paragraph, which I haven't got linked here. Okay. All right. The next one is another multiple matching, and this is also B1. Hang on. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Okay, so let's have a look at these short answer questions here for the earlier one. Now, this is a paragraph with lots and lots of information in it. Now, with your students, rather than sitting down and going through all the questions all the time, you might also get a piece of text like this and get the students themselves to invent some questions for it. It empowers them a bit and helps them to come up with, understand a bit how that part of the exam is structured. So, for example, if I give a question with the answer Meryl Streep, what would be the question for that? The answer is Meryl Streep. What would be a question for that? Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep. Oh, who has been nominated for many Oscars? Excellent. What about Walt Disney? Who has received the most nominations? Oh, that's for Meryl. And who has won the most Academy Awards is Walt Disney. Can somebody come up with another answer for me? Can you choose an answer from this text? First one to give me an answer and we'll decide on that one. Can someone give me an answer in 4 words or less so that we can make a question? Please? 17 nominations. Excellent. Now, what would be the question for that? 17 nominations. 3 films. Thank you. Let's do the 17 nominations first. 26 Oscars. Good. So we could be built. So you could get your students to write answers and then write the questions for those answers. How many? Good. So how many questions? If it's a 1991, might be what year, etc. But this is something useful you could do for this section, just to make a bit of a break in just writing in all the answers all the time. Okay, multiple matching B1. Now, looking at this title here, How Difficult is Chinese? What do you think this reading is about, without looking at any of the questions? Do you think it's about Chinese food? Good, the Chinese language. What tells you it's about the Chinese language? The difficulty of the Chinese language, yes. But what tells you is the image as well. It's a picture of writing. Now, it says, read an extract from an online article about learning Chinese. Parts of the text have been removed. Now, in the Invalsi, this is quite an easy exercise. You have 9 options, and this text has to go into the middle of a sentence. Now, the easiest way of doing it is just to try and fit each one in, going down through them, and then crossing them off when you find something that fits. Only one will fit in. This is much easier than the first certificate version, where they have complete sentences and sometimes almost a paragraph missing, and it can be very confusing. This is particularly at the B1 level, this is quite an easy exercise to do. So, if we look at this, there's been a lot of talk recently about the growing importance of Mandarin Chinese. Mandarin is the most widely spoken language. Can you type in the answer for me? In the world, thank you very much, and is fast catching up on English in the top languages on the internet. Now, if we go to the next one, unfortunately, it's rumored to be one of the a foreigner to learn. Who can come up with the answer first? The hardest languages, good. And if we check through, none of the others will fit in there. Now, as you go through and put in your answer, cross out the ones that have been used, and then the ones that you have to choose from become less and less. Okay, so let's look at question 2. It's written with characters. Each word is really a picture. In order to be able to read the newspaper, recognize 2,000 of these pictures. Got it? Yay, good, B. You need to at least be able to recognize 2,000 of these pictures. Next one. Often, these characters is to write the words over and over again until they stick in your mind. Often, the only way to memorize these characters. Good. And none of the others possibly fit in there, even if they're out of context. Grammatically, they don't fit. Okay. All right, so next page. This is for multiple choice questions. And this is, now we're at the B2 level. So we have more questions, and probably the text is a little bit more difficult. Now, just because the text is a little bit more difficult, it doesn't mean that the questions are more difficult. The text is at a B2 level, but the questions are probably not that difficult at all, particularly at this easy level test, which you would be using. Okay. All right, so let's read the title. A bio glue that can close a cut in seconds. Does this give you a clue as to what the text is about? Can you give me some keywords? What might it be about? Glue. And is glue a difficult word? They all know glue. Okay, cut. Now cut, in this sense, means something very specific. And if we look at the picture, it gives you more of an idea of what a cut might be. Good, healing, excellent. Any others? What are the people in the picture below doing? Who are they? What area are they in? They're surgeons. Good, good. So they're in an operation. Yes, okay. Now the text says, read a newspaper article about a new bioglue that can be used in surgery. So that makes it much clearer. So before you even skim to understand what the text is about, you've got a fair idea before you even begin. Okay. This is question 2, which goes with the second paragraph, I think. Yes. So we have a synonym for glue in the first paragraph, in the first sentence. What is it? The synonym for glue begins with A, begins with AD. It's adhesive, but I mean, it's a word that Italians understand easily because it's a cognate. Okay, so what hasn't the glue been tested on yet? Pigs, humans, rabbits, pigs and rabbits. Immediately you should be able to get the answer just from the first sentence. Hello? Note that the question is in the negative. This is something that you need to point out, that you need to underline. So we need to find out what it hasn't been tested on yet. Okay. Jacobo has just told me that everyone answered B, but I can't see anyone's answers. Okay, yeah, I can't see your answers, so I'll just assume that you're getting it right. Thanks. All right, so the answer is B, humans. Now, why could we have problems with students choosing pigs and rabbits instead? Because they might just look at the text and see it was used on pigs and rabbits and maybe forget the fact that the question is in the negative. So the negative and the positive needs to be good. They might miss the negation, yes. So that needs to be pointed out to them as well. Okay. All right, so we have the nice picture in here again. Okay. This is the last paragraph with questions 8 and 9. So the Chinese researchers, now we've got quite long answers here. So we want to be underlining some key words in the possibilities. So what would we be underlining in A? I can't see your responses, so I imagine that you're all madly typing in concept, good, or yes, and only. Okay. B, stole the idea from another company. So stole is probably what you might underline. C, what would be the key word in C that you might underline, that we're looking for information on? Results, good. And fastest, excellent. So the first one we're looking at that they're the only ones. The second one, we're looking for information about stealing. The third one, we're looking for information on speed. And for D, what are we looking for information on? 20 years, good, time. Okay, so let's have a look in the text what it talks about. The prospect for surgery in emergency situations is very exciting, and it's a dream that several companies around the world have been racing towards. So, That gets rid of only, doesn't it? It gets rid of a because several companies around the world have been chasing this. If it really works, it'll change the face of surgery of the future and save many, many lives, blah, blah, blah. No problems with stitches in thin or wet tissue tearing open, and much faster surgery times. Wu Yang and his colleagues are the first to create a unique glue that can somehow grab hold of a slippery beating heart. So, Wu Yang is the Chinese, and so they are the first to create. So the answer is C, 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 C. Thank you very much. So because they've been the fastest to get the results. Now, when we've finished the last paragraph here, and we've still got another question to go. So why is this? Sometimes with the multiple choice questions, you get a general question about the whole reading, or that summarizes the last paragraph. So you need to be able to tell your students to expect this kind of thrown in question at the end, which is usually an opinion question. So the adhesive will be particularly useful for heart surgery because, now this is quite a tricky question. This is quite a difficult question for the easy level. So what is a key word that you can see that's in both texts? Dry? Yes. Where's dry in the text? Slippery? Yes, no, but I'm looking for a key word that's in both. And the key word that I can see is in C. You've got unique in C, and then you've got unique in the last sentence. So they're creating a unique glue that can somehow grab hold of a slippery beating heart. Now, this is not the reason it's going to be useful for heart surgery, not because it's unique, but because it can adhere to surfaces that aren't dry. And here that was correct, saying slippery. D, it can be used for all blood types. I mean, it possibly can, but it's not mentioned in the text. So the answer here is A. It can adhere to surfaces that aren't dry, because that's what makes it special. Okay. Now, multiple matching with headings. This is another form of multiple matching, but you have to put headings in. This is a bit of a different one because the headings are actually questions, and that isn't always the case. Actually, it's rarely the case. And it makes it a little bit easier when they're questions, but usually they will just be statements. So let's have a look at this one. What do you think are the keywords in the title? Make £10,000, selling stuff online. It's all pretty useful. So then we have a picture of somebody addressing packages to send off. So this person probably sells their stuff where? I can't see any answers, but I presume that people are writing eBay, and that's what it is. So read the text on, I can't read it, on an interview with a woman who sells things online. Okay, so then we have to choose the correct heading. Again, you probably don't even need to scan, just go straight to the headings and we can put them in. If we look at 0, the answer, of course, is already done. So why did you start doing it? I needed some extra cash. So I checked out a few key websites and then discovered an inventive way to make money. Now, with your students, don't waste this beautiful paragraph just because it's got a title on top of it already. It's full of great vocabulary for buying and selling. Can you see any good words that they could use? The first line, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing your answers. Cash, money, savings, buying, resell, buy and sell, selling online, generate extra money. There's some great vocabulary in here that you could go through and list on the board to have a bit of a break from question searching. Now, if we look at question 1, the most common question I get is, what do I sell online to generate so much money? So what do you think goes with this? What's the heading for this? You would be looking for, what is the most common question you are asked? But that's not there. So, no, not C, what do you sell? The most common question I get asked is, what do I sell online to generate so much money? Sorry. Oh, I beg your pardon, it is C. Sorry. So, what do you sell? Yes. And what does she sell? Jewelry, clothing, rock and roll clothing and brands. Okay, so then you would cross that one off the list and then go on to the next one. So we've got those two crossed off. Let's look at the next one. We can probably do this quite quickly. So Facebook groups have been the best place for the items I sell, particularly the rock and roll clothing and photography gear. What do you think the question is? Facebook groups. I can't see any answers. So on Facebook, so it would be where? Oh, sorry. Okay, I can't see all the F answers. Okay, so F is the correct answer, so we'd cross it off. Next, go to question 3. Charity shops, garage sales, and even Facebook marketplaces are all places you can get items to resell. The answer is, I presume everyone is madly writing because I can't see it. Thank you, G. Yes, where do you get things to sell? Thank you. I'm only seeing a few of them coming up though. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so then we move on to the next, which is a multiple matching B2, which again is putting the text inside the sentences. Now, the difference between the B2 and the B1 is what? What can you see that's different? The number of questions. There are 9 questions, while there are, thank you, the vocabulary is different, yes. Now there's also, if you look at the title, there's a lot less information given in the title as well. I mean, I'm sure all of you know what Stockholm Syndrome is, but if you were a 15-year-old looking at this, what might you presume? What is a syndrome? An illness, yes, or a disease. Now, yes, you'd see from the picture, the barbed wire, it may be something to do with imprisonment. Now, even if we go into the rubric, it doesn't give you much information. It says, read an article about Stockholm Syndrome. It's not giving you any more information either. So what I suggest doing, you could skim, but I would say quickly skim the questions or the missing words to get a bit of an idea. So if we look, being together, entered the bank. So we know it's a bank. Basis by day 2, something wrong. Hostages. Time period, only for the night. So captors. There's some word there words there that could give you an indication that we're looking at a bank robbery. Now, then you would just go straight in and scan and skim to try and understand. So we've got Stockholm Bank, armed robbers, broadcast live on TV, biggest banks, machine gun, ammunition. So we know that it's a bank robbery just looking at it from that. Okay, so the first 0 is F. So they were holed up inside a cramped bank vault while the ordeal was broadcast live around Sweden and the world. So it was in 1973. So then 32-year-old Jan Erik Janne Olsen, carrying a folded jacket, a suitcase, entered the bank. Good. Okay. The jacket concealed a loaded submachine gun and his case was full of ammunition, explosives and rope. He pulled out his gun and fired it at the ceiling. The party has just begun. I'm giving you a hint here. He shouted in English. Letter. Good. G, disguising it with an American accent. Good. And this is actually quite a good story and a true story, this one. It goes on to talk about Stockholm Syndrome and what it is, the fact that it is people who are hostages or kidnapped who become attached to their kidnappers. And it all originated in 1973 with this group of people who started to befriend Janne Olsen after the days that they were held in captivity and trying to explain it. But I haven't gone into too much with that. I have gone to the last 4 questions and we've got all the other options already crossed out. The hostages and the captors were on first name. This one, you need to know an expression. Good, so it would be basis by day 2, but your students might find this one a little bit difficult. So if they can't find the answer, tell them to skip and go to the next one. And then you can do it by closer elimination when you're down to 3 at the very end. This was how the term Stockholm Syndrome was coined. It is a condition which causes hostages to develop a psychological alliance, question 8, as a survival strategy during captivity. Develop a psychological alliance, sorry, I didn't see that one, with their captors, good, and it's right at the end. Finally, the police pumped tear gas into the vault and Olafsson and Olsen surrendered. Finally, J, good. After more than 130 hours. And so why not, it's the only one with time, isn't it? And not only for one night, that wouldn't work. Okay. It was a response that perplexed authorities, psychiatrists, and the captives themselves, who wondered if their reactions meant that there was they're not coming up. D, something wrong with them. Yes, yes, very good. Okay. So what you have to do with all of them have in common the fact that you need to look at the title and the rubric, skim, then go to the questions, do them in the order, then go back to the text and scan it, choose your answer, but there's something that you have to do for all the different tasks at the very end of each task before you move on, and what is that? what should you do after you have chosen all your answers? You should spend 2 minutes doing what? I'm sorry, nothing is coming up. I imagine that you're all writing, check, check, check my work. Yes, okay, thank you. Okay. Now, at the end, at the end of each of the tests in the book, there is a self-check table for students. So they can check their scores and they can write their score for each exercise and add up how much they got at the end. And then they can decide whether they found each one difficult, not so bad, or very easy. And then they can look back and decide which topics they've had problems with and be able to keep a record of which ones they should probably work a bit harder on. Okay, so these are the two complete Invalsi books. The one I've been working from today is the one on the left, which has 8 tests in it, and the fast track is for people who only need a smaller book and it only has 4 tests in it. Both of them have completely different tests. The books themselves are completely different. And for more information on them, you can go to the website, which is written above the Helbling languages. So now we have time for some questions or some answers, if possible.
Grazie. Grazie mille, Kate.
Okay, I'm trying to find how to get back. I'm trying to, so that I can see questions and screens and stuff. I'm just on big at the moment.
Okay, Kate, it seems as if most of the questions have been addressed during live chat. So ringrazio tutti quanti per l'attenzione.